Boredom is your path to happiness. So, boredom is actually a really important emotional state because it allows us to recalibrate the dopaminergic mechanism. So, that the way the dopaminergic mechanism works in the brain is that it's an opponent process mechanism, which means that it's like a seesaw. So, when you overload the seesaw this way, in which you're creating a lot of pleasure, a lot of stimulation, whether it's through chocolate or scrolling or whatever you do, then you're desensitizing the mechanism. And so what that means is that you're going to have to do more and more and more and more in order to feel good, because your baseline of pleasure is so high now that you've essentially desensitized yourself. It's the same way that essentially it works with drugs, right? So if you take a drug for a long time, you get adaptation. And when you get adaptation, you have to take more and more of the drug to feel better, right? To feel the same effect. And if you don't take that drug, then you essentially just feel bad all of the time. And that happens with really anything in which we experience pleasure. It's not exactly the same as drugs, but it's a similar type of effect. And so the counteraction of this is actually boredom. So boredom for a lot of us feels like pain. Like we essentially do so much to try to avoid feeling bored. But what it does is it counteracts that mechanism. So you're on the other side of the seesaw now. So if this is like a seesaw, you're down here, right? And so when you're feeling bored, it's actually resetting all of that adaptation, and then it's getting you to the point of neutral where you can actually feel the stimulation of what used to be really joyful for you, like really stimulating. And so every time that you're actually experiencing boredom, you're experiencing a recalibration. So it's actually really good for you. And if you can kind of have this type of relationship with boredom, then oftentimes it can be a lot easier for you to be bored, because it's quite good for your brain to be bored. And it's one of the most important factors that we have in fighting anhedonia. And anhedonia is essentially this experience that we're starting to have of not really like feeling pleasure in everyday life anymore. Like we're sort of low-key feeling kind of like whatever, like this doesn't, like nothing really kind of makes me happy anymore, right? And so if you're experiencing that, then a lot of the solution involves you being really bored. I know this isn't like a popular video, like this is probably not going to be a popular video, I can already tell right now. But if you want to combat like overstimulation, overwhelm, and that feeling of anhedonia, then the more boredom you can create for yourself, the better. And the way I like to think about this for myself is two factors. So never engage with anything without work. So every type of pleasure needs to have work attached to it. So like, for instance, like scrolling, that's just not a lot of work. Creating content, that's work, right? So, even like eating a dessert, right? If you can actually cook it or like bake it yourself, like put a ton of work into it, that's much better than eating something prepackaged. Like you want to work for your pleasure. The other thing that I like to keep in mind is try to engage with as few activities as existed like before 1950. Why 1950? I don't know. I just chose that random date. But essentially, like the most old-timey activities that you can engage in, the better, because all of those are usually like slow drip pleasure, right? Like they're not like really instantaneous pleasure. Like you're going to be reading books, going for walks, I don't know, like making pie, like who knows. Like you're not going to engage in a lot of activities that are kind of giving you quick hits of pleasure if they're kind of old-timey activities. And I actually have a whole video on this, on old-timey hobbies, that essentially like they really do a lot for our brain. And it's like this performance hack of actually engaging in hobbies that existed a long time ago. So if you're doing something that somebody could have done 100 years ago, you're usually good to go. So this is how you reset those pleasure circuits and how you actually start feeling better again. Because what's happening now is essentially you're overweight on the pleasure side, you're overweight on the stimulation side, and you need to reset that kind of seesaw. If you're interested in reading more about this, Dopamine Nation is the book on this by Anna Lemke. It's excellent, and it will completely transform the way you think about pleasure and pain.